In the Black Fantastic is a group show of artists from the African diaspora who use myth and speculative fiction as a way to explore the racialised everyday. What they do is start from an awareness that the idea of race itself is a fiction, is a social construct, but is nevertheless something that has a defining sway over our lives. These artists propose other ways of seeing that look beyond the constraints and the confines within which black people are normally and often held in society. They construct new myths, new fictions, new ways of seeing, new forms of possibility, new ways of being in the world for black people. We're standing here in this space surrounded by the work of the artist Nick Cave, including this piece, Chain Reaction. These are casts of Nick Cave's own hands, and if you look closely you can see that these are hands that are linked together, so they form a chain up to the ceiling. You might think of kinship and connection and togetherness. But actually, if we also look closer at the grasp between these hands, we see how delicate, imprecise that hold is. So we also then might think about the fraughtness of black being. We might think about how difficult, painful even sometimes, it is to walk through society as a person of colour. Nick Cave first started creating these extraordinary jewelled, floral, sequined suits in the 1990s after the motorist Rodney King was beaten by a group of LA police officers. He was so struck by the vulnerability of Rodney King as a black figure moving through American space. The sound suits we can think of as possibly armour, self-defence. When we look at them, you can't see, if someone's wearing a sound suit, what race they are, what gender they are. In part, the sound suit becomes an armour, but it becomes also a way to refuse to be consigned. It becomes a way for a black person to insist on being seen on their own terms, as wildly imaginative, as beautiful and contrarian and ostentatious as they choose to be. This incredible balance between addressing these very difficult subjects of race and racialised violence, but also find a way through that, find a way with that to assert beauty, to assert possibility, offering a way to see the world through their eyes. For a long time in her work, Ellen Gallagher has been interested in a contemporary myth, the myth of Drexia. This story about enslaved African women who were pushed pregnant off the side of slave ships moving from Africa to America. The fetuses in their stomachs learnt to breathe in the water and then went on to found their own undersea realm. As much as it's a fiction, it's also based on fact. Hundreds of thousands of people died during the Middle Passage from Africa to the Americas. If we look closer at these paintings, we see these figures that look regal, figures that look slightly alien, figures that speak of the proud and strange citizens of this aquatopia. Then we see all this detritus of the ocean floor. We see mollusks and we see all sorts of different shapes and forms, and we see these figures and we imagine what an undersea world of liberation, of African sovereignty, of African freedom, of African statehood and being, unencumbered by legacies of slavery or colonialism. We imagine the pride and the wonder and the beauty of that world. Chris Ofili takes as his subject matter here moments and scenes from the Bible and from Homer's Odyssey. He doesn't want to illustrate some of these stories. He wants to, I suppose, offer new ways and see if new stories can emerge, and understands something as significant to Western culture as the Bible as another myth, as another set of stories and fables folded deep into our culture. This is his act of reimagining, of summoning, of insisting also on black presence and a black gaze. We're looking at the work of Wangetchi Mutu. This sculpture here, Sentinel, we can see that it includes elements of Kenyan clay and soil and materials and even animal parts, and that perhaps references folklore and myth and African legend. She's insisting that what we might think of as African superstitions or beliefs are not that, but are valid points of knowledge and inspiration and ideas and belief. She's equalizing and insisting that we look with more than one set of eyes upon what is knowledge, what's power, what's truth, what's belief, what makes for a powerful and compelling work of art. Wangetchi Mutu's work reaches out into the fantastic, but it's grounded in an insistence that we see African originated people as critical agents, as figures who shape the world around them, who are not simply the subjects of a Western gaze. In the Black Fantastic, as an exhibition, it's a set of small worlds that artist by artist is conjuring, is offering, as a way really to see through the eyes of Black lived experience, to understand and to critique and to question the nature of race in society, and to say, there's yet more. There are yet more ways of being. There are yet more ways of seeing, and that Black people have within themselves a capacity to imagine and to create new worlds, new universes, new interiors, new cosmoses of possibility.